The transport ship Convergence shuddered as it entered the atmosphere of Kepler 442c, its hull groaning under the stress of atmospheric entry. Inside the cramped passenger bay, representatives from 12 different species clutched their restraints, each mentally preparing for what lay ahead. The Galactic Survival Initiative had selected them for humanity's most ambitious project yet, a 6-month colonization simulation on an untamed world. Captain HFY of the Reptilian Saurid Confederacy watched the lone human with barely concealed disdain. Marcus Chen sat quietly in his harness, eyes closed, appearing almost meditative while others showed obvious signs of stress. The Saurid captain had commanded fleets across 3 star systems. Surely this primitive biped posed no threat to his inevitable victory in the coming competition. The ship touched down with a bone-jarring thud on a vast plain dotted with crystalline formations and strange twisted trees that resembled massive coral growths. Through the viewports, the participants could see their new temporary home, an alien landscape beneath twin suns, with purple-tinged grass swaying in the afternoon breeze. "Participants," announced the ship's AI in its neutral synthetic voice, "you have been provided with basic survival equipment and tools. The objective is simple: establish sustainable settlements and demonstrate your species' colonial capabilities. Evaluation begins now." The airlock hissed open and 12 beings stepped onto alien soil. Within minutes, the natural order asserted itself. The insectoid Vexcari immediately began excavating underground tunnels with their razor-sharp mandibles, their chittering communication echoing from below ground. The crystalline Zephyrians started growing geometric shelters directly from the mineral-rich soil, their bodies resonating at frequencies that shaped raw matter. Captain HFY directed his Saurid crew to construct a fortified bunker using heavy stones, their reptilian strength making quick work of the construction. Each species fell back on their evolutionary strengths. The aquatic Nereidans found a nearby stream and began building semi-submerged dome structures. The energy-based luminary simply formed a controlled plasma field that would serve as both shelter and defensive perimeter. The fungoid mycels released spores that rapidly grew into a living shelter, while the avian etherwing built an elaborate nest city in the coral trees. By midday, 11 distinct settlements dotted the landscape, each reflecting millennia of evolutionary adaptation and instinct. And then there was Marcus. While others had immediately begun construction, the human had spent the first hour walking the perimeter of the designated area, taking notes on a simple tablet. He collected soil samples, tested the stream water, observed wind patterns, and mapped the locations of useful resources. The other participants watched with growing amusement as precious time ticked away. "The human appears to be suffering from analysis paralysis," Captain HFY remarked to his subordinates, his scaled lips curling into what passed for a smile among his species. But Marcus wasn't paralyzed. He was planning. When he finally began to move, it was with purpose that surprised the observers. Rather than constructing a shelter for himself, Marcus walked to the Vexcari tunnels and began speaking with their queen in broken but functional insectoid standard. 20 minutes later, he emerged carrying several of their remarkably sharp digging tools. Next, he approached the Zephyrians' geometric settlement. The crystalline beings, curious about this odd mammal, listened as Marcus explained something, in their harmonic language, pointing toward their mineral-shaping capabilities and then toward the stream where the Nereidans worked. What happened next defied every expectation. The Vexcari began extending their tunnel network, not just for themselves, but creating underground channels that connected multiple settlements. The Zephyrians started growing crystalline pipes and filters, working with the Nereidans to create a water distribution system that served 6 different species. Marcus had somehow convinced them that cooperation was more efficient than competition. As the twin suns began to set, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples, the other participants witnessed something unprecedented in the Galactic Survival Initiative's history. Where there should have been 12 separate settlements, there was instead the beginning of something far more complex. The micelles' living structures had been modified to serve as atmospheric processors, cleaning and conditioning air for species with different respiratory needs. The luminary's plasma fields had been repositioned to provide power and heating for the entire community. The Ether Wing had begun construction of communication towers, while the Saurid's defensive expertise was being used to protect everyone, not just their own kind. Marcus hadn't built a hut. He had built the foundation of a society. How? Captain Zexai demanded, approaching the human as night fell. Around them, a bustling interspecies community continued to grow. How did you convince them to abandon their individual advantages for collective effort? Marcus looked up from where he was helping a group of young Vexkari workers install a Zephyrian-grown water filtration system. I didn't convince them to abandon anything, he replied, wiping mineral dust from his hands. I helped them realize that their individual strengths become exponentially more powerful when combined with others. The human gestured toward the thriving settlement around them. Your people are incredible builders and defenders, Captain. The Vexkari are master engineers. The Zephyrians can manipulate matter at the molecular level. The Nereidans understand fluid dynamics better than any species I've ever encountered. Separately, you each built shelters. Together, you're building something that could survive and thrive for centuries. As if to prove his point, a group of mixed-species children, young beings from various settlements, ran past, playing some improvised game that required aerial maneuvers from the Ether Wing youth, tunneling skills from young Vexkari, and the harmonic communication of Zephyrian saplings. Captain Zexai stared in amazement. In a single day, the human had done something that centuries of galactic diplomacy had never achieved. He had created a truly integrated multi-species community. But what about the competition? The Saurid asked. What about proving your species' colonial superiority? Marcus smiled, that peculiar expression that was uniquely human. Captain, when humans colonize a world, we don't just survive. We create civilizations. And civilizations aren't built by one species alone. They're built by communities that recognize that diversity isn't a weakness to overcome, but a strength to embrace. As the alien constellations emerged in the darkening sky above, the first integrated galactic settlement in recorded history continued to grow, powered not by the strength of any single species, but by humanity's greatest gift, the ability to see potential in others and the vision to build something greater than the sum of its parts. On this first day in camp, everyone else had built huts. The human had built civilization.